Hey everybody, and thank you very much for joining us for the 97th week of the Free Assange Vigil series. My name is Andrew Smith, and I am joined tonight by my co-host Misty Winston. With us, we do have the KRTD media team, but before we get into the interviews, I do want to run through the numbers with everybody. We have 3,801 days of illegal and arbitrary detention for Julian Assange. We have 763 days since the WikiLeaks founder was trafficked from the Ecuadorian embassy after being sold to the US and the UK for a $4.2 billion loan from the International Monetary Fund to the nation of Ecuador. We have 127 days since District Judge Vanessa Breitzer's January 6th ruling on denying Julian Assange bail after ruling no extradition and personally ordering his release on January 4th. We have 1,426 days of federal incarceration for whistleblower Reality Winner. We have 1,356 days of inhumane detention for the alleged Vault 7 whistleblower Joshua Schultz, and at least 939 of those days have been spent under special administrative measures. 762 days of freedom or of political persecution for Ola Bini by the hands of the Ecuadorian government. But the two spots of good news, as always, we have Chelsea Manning free for 419 days, and Jeremy Hammond has been free for 68 days. I did
And
get
just
a cool.
participated in the national or the international whistleblower, another cat. Sorry, whistleblower accountability and dissent festival, which is awesome. It was good to hear him speak publicly for the first time since being released. So,
We
yeah.
actually got to get a little bit of a confirmation. Um, a person who we know got to talk to Jeremy, and the February protest we held back in 2020 with the whistles outside of the Alexandria Detention Center were heard by Jeremy and the other and Chelsea inside. So I was just
Which is
that
amazing.
literally made my day. So special thank you to the person that told me, and special thank you to the person that told Jeremy in jail who we were and why we were there and all of those things. So I don't know who that person is that even communicated that. I just found that out, so I just wanted to.
And whoever it is, you better not be fucking with him either.
Yeah. So
Better be real talk.
so I just thought that was super cool. But with that,
Yeah,
we
it
do
is.
have three very special guests with us tonight. And this is a few of the hosts from the KRTD media team. They are one of the new streaming partners that we have. We're up on their YouTube channel. Supposed to have been 2 weeks ago, but as of last Tuesday officially. So I just wanted to say thank you for that. But also, if you guys could go around, I'll start with Shane and talk about
Yeah.
what KRTD Media is and the group that you've built, because it's a really original as far as the types of broadcasters you have.
So the KRTD Media started out as a podcast called Kerberos Roundtable Discussions. Kerberos is a web authentication thing. I came out of programming, so I wanted a unique name. So that was the original podcast that I had both Madeline and Joe on. About 9 months ago, we started. We transformed into KRTD Media. We built into company structure. Started running multiple shows. The show that I appear most on is KRTD News, and I appear a lot with Madeline and Joe, and there's two other hosts that are not here today of that show. But KRTD Media is meant to be an independent media organization where basically my goal is to create something. What I want to be, what KRTD wants to be, is what TYT was supposed to be. A truly independent media organization that is definitely open to everybody. And after I interviewed Andrew, I thought it was extremely important for KRTD to do its part and get the message about Assange out there.
I'm always happy when other people are broadcasting what's happening to Julian Assange because more people need to talk about it. I mean, I don't think anybody will be surprised that makes me excited all the time. Anytime somebody's willing to talk about it, I'm good with it. So thank you guys for, streaming everything and trying to get the message out there, because I don't know if anybody's noticed, it's getting really bad. Like Craig Murray was, we're going to talk about it, but Craig Murray was just sentenced to 8 months in jail for journalism, for great journalism. And it's just getting worse. So yeah, thank you for, letting us stream. It's always good. I mean, it doesn't even have to be us. Whoever wants to talk about Julian Assange, please. I mean, I would like to not have to talk about it as much.
That's something
cool.
we were actually joking about pre-show, is that like the whole goal of the Vigil is to be the smallest fish in the pool and eventually become irrelevant.
Yeah, people say that you and I, we are all doing it for clout. No, I don't want to do this. I don't like public speaking. Everybody knows that. Like everybody who knows me knows that. I don't want to do this. Do that. No. So lots of people need to do it. Everybody should be talking about this.
I love how some networks and some show, even some of the ones that you'd expect to talk about it, kind of gloss over it and don't talk about it, or like TYT outsourced it to Democracy Now! Instead of even talking about it by themselves. You have people outsourcing, you have people not talking about it, and it needs to be
even
talked
when they
about
do talk about it, it's
and then AOC saying, "Oh, Julian is a problem."
She has concerns.
Yes.
But Madeline,
Yes.
so how did you get involved with, is it KRTD, right? I'm so terrible. Yes, I got it right.
Yes, Roundtable. That's how I had to remember it. Is Roundtable RTD.
I can't believe I got that on the first time. I'm so proud of myself.
Well done. Not easy. I didn't get it the first time, and I've been on the show more than once.
Good.
And I still didn't get it. No. I was invited on the show by Shane because I was running for U.S. Senate in New Jersey as a Green, and I was running against Senator Menendez the first time around in 2018, and then running against Senator Cory Booker in 2020. And I guess my independent perspective on politics. Green Party takes no money from political action committees or big donors, and so I guess that perspective was one that was of interest to Shane, and I really feel like Assange, he was the hero of liberals for many, 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 many months. As long as he stayed away from the Democratic Party and revealing things about the Democratic Party in the United States, he was everyone's hero. If he went after George W. Bush, if he went after, any of the Republicans or other countries revealing secrets, that was okay. But the minute he said something about Hillary Clinton, his whole, he got torn down piece by piece by piece, and it's been continuing ever since. I wish I could reconstruct the exact day that it all began, but it was people who thought he was the best one day or 2 days later, after Hillary Clinton complained about him. That was it. He was no longer a journalist. He was a hack. He was in the pocket of Putin. He was Putin's puppet, what have you. And to me, independent.
He got a standing ovation in a room full of liberals at TED. He got it at his TED talk. Like a room full of liberals literally gave him a standing ovation.
What year was that? What was?
I'm probably going to give you the wrong answer, so I'll look it up. But
okay. But before he went after Hillary Clinton, right?
Yes, it was about it was about the Manning leaks, and
yes.
He got a standing ovation. Let me see.
but then he had the audacity to release information about Hillary. And notice nobody has refuted a single fact that WikiLeaks reported on. Nobody. They can't refute the facts, so they go into all this other, this other mode of talking about how he's a hacker, he's a danger, he's not a real journalist. But he was, I wasn't aware that he got a standing ovation at a TED Talk, populated by liberals. But I did see his star suddenly fall when he went after Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, it had been a long-term propaganda effort that started literally in 2009, 2010, around the area of Cablegate. And
Mm.
it's just been essentially targeting one political group or ideological group after another, almost like breaking their support for Julian with whatever way they try to
Mm.
spin it. Whether it was like
The,
the fake rape accusations in Sweden, whether it's a
Right.
Mossad agent or a Russian agent, whether it's he released classified information so he's dangerous to national security, um, everything like that. They like
Mhm.
the TED
compounded
Talk was
those over
July
decades.
19th, 2010.
Well, 2010.
July 19th, 2010.
2010.
Yeah.
So let's see. We had Obama was elected in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
2010 would have been the last year of the Hillary Clinton secretary. No, because she was
No,
until 12.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
Okay, so that was halfway
Was
through
she?
Hillary
Yeah, I think she
Clinton
was.
as Secretary of State. So that's, you know, at that time, most of the stuff that Assange was putting out, the information coming from Chelsea and Manning, it was the results of a Bush Clinton, and it was the results of a Bush administration.
Correct.
You know, so the information that was coming out about the war in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq, it could all be
Mm-hmm.
attributed directly to Bush, which of course the Democrats loved, because that was
Exactly.
the opportunity to destroy and dismantle, you know, the goodwill that had been built up for the Bush administration through their actions of empire building in Afghanistan and Iraq, as the war crimes came to light. But once you realize that it's all part of the same machine, whether it's Democrat or whether it's Republican, you know, Assange didn't care,
Hmm.
you know, which party it was that was associated with war crimes.
That's right.
He reported on the war crimes in Afghanistan and Iraq and everywhere else.
That's right.
And honestly, all the administration should have understood that about him, even in 2010. You know, it's not about the party, it's about
Right.
the truth.
I think it's weird to them when somebody won't sell out though and won't go along. You know what I mean? Because it's very rare that somebody will like actually be able to withstand that kind of temptation into access and power and money. Because if you go along, you get hooked up. Like you get deals with people and you get access to people who have power, and it's very like that's very hard to maintain your spine and your strength of will against that. I get that. Like that's a really difficult thing. But he's all like he's never gotten it wrong. To me, that's it.
That's
all
right. No, but
he's never had to retract a single thing. And people are
that's
like,
right.
I had somebody the other day told me that they trusted BuzzFeed more than WikiLeaks, and I wanted to die. I'm like, this is BuzzFeed publishes like quizzes, like which vegetable should you marry? You know what I mean? It's not that's not real journalism. Are you kidding
No,
me? That's
no.
ridiculous. WikiLeaks has never ever gotten it wrong. They've never had to retract a single word, a single letter that they have ever published. And to me, that's everything. That I mean,
Well,
nobody else has that kind of record. Nobody.
and journalism is supposed to be independent of corporations, independent of governments. I mean, the ethics of journalism, I had to, I taught them once because I taught a course in ethics to college students at a business school. And there are so many things that journalists are not supposed to do, not show the appearance, not have the appearance of conflict of interest, all of these things that are violated repeatedly day in and day out by what passes as mainstream, or what is called mainstream media, but really isn't journalism at all. And so, yeah, I mean, if you're going to do, if you're going to do your job, you need to stay independent. And this is why it's so, one of the reasons it's so disheartening to me that he has not gotten a better deal with all of this, or better the outcome. He's still in jail and he's not able to get out, is because he is one of the few, just as you said, one of the few remaining real journalists out there. And if he goes, what's going to happen to the rest of our media?
Well, and I think that's why they're using him is because they know that the the appearance of him being treated this way for so long. I always call it he's the proverbial head on the stake. You know what I mean? He's the warning. If you fuck with us, this is what we will do to you.
That's even what Niels Melzer.
He's the example.
Yeah, that's what the UN Special Rapporteur on Torture even went as far as to say, is that these Western nations are trying to use Julian as an example internationally for the power that they have.
And the chilling effect has already been extremely pervasive. I mean, look at even independent media. Look at how terrible it is. I mean, it's unbelievable. And there aren't very many sources or outlets or journalists or commentators. There aren't a lot of people. I mean, even the self-censoring, people don't even talk about Julian Assange. Like people who were in the news business or the content creation business or anything to do with wanting to have a voice and an opinion and be able to publish it, but they still don't. It's like nobody cares about Julian Assange. They won't even talk about it because they know if they do, it'll hurt their clicks, it'll hurt their subscriptions, they'll get screwed in the algorithm, they might get demonetized, and so they just don't talk about it. They self-censor, and it's extremely pervasive. So the chilling effect has already been unbelievably detrimental to truth and freedom and justice and all of those things that everybody claims to give a shit about, that this country is supposed to be about. We can't even get accurate information about what our government is doing to us. You know what I mean? Or doing to the world. Like, we can't even. Israel right now is committing genocide on Palestinians, and our mainstream media is like, well, both sides have good people and it's just a clash. And that's the information we get, and that's bullshit. We know it's bullshit. Stop allowing that. Sorry, I get a little ranty sometimes.
But you see, online media,
I love it.
We are illegitimate. The real media is CNN, MSNBC, and Fox News. What we are is illegitimate.
That's what they try to claim.
Well, that's
according
what they
to
try
whom?
to claim.
According to whom, right?
That's what they try to claim. They're not legitimate media. God damn. The propaganda and the lies, and once it's so obvious. Like, they're not even very clever. It's just in your face bullshit constantly, nonstop. And it's it's not hard to spot. Like, we just have to get people to understand what to recognize. But what they do is they make it emotional, and it's like a team sport. And so it's like, I'm a Buckeye fan. I like Ohio State football. I'm not ashamed to admit it. I know it's a dumb thing to be obsessed with or whatever, but I like sports. I was an athlete. And so I like Ohio State football. And it's that team mentality. And it's that, because I know it's dumb. It is dumb. It's ridiculous to get all fired up about some football team in some other state. It's the same damn thing. These people don't work for you. I have nothing to do with Ohio State winning a football game. It doesn't really benefit my life in any way. It benefits them. Some of them get NFL contracts, and Ohio State makes a shit ton of money. But you know what I mean? It's kind of the same thing. It's that kind of no-brained, sports affiliation, that kind of mentality, and they make it emotional too. They make it so that the other team is pure evil and you have to hate them, and it's just on another level. The propaganda is on another level.
Covered the news, you'd have to call people out, and that would be rude, and then you would lose access.
Well, and that is something that I learned the hard way through trying to question some of the corrupt media people in New Jersey. They have ties to a public relations firm. They're all in the know or in the mix. It's Democrats and Republicans alike. It leads to a Republican and Democratic Party machine that's one and the same. There's no Democratic Party machine and then a Republican Party machine. They're one and the same. And I'll have to say, I think we're all, you were talking about Israel. There's also what's going on in Colombia and Venezuela and in Syria and Afghanistan, and where the world is in a worse position with Julian Assange behind bars, because we're not getting. He was releasing information about what was happening in all these countries and showing the connection between corrupt media or corrupt government officials in this country, in those countries, and the wars and the torture and all the things that were going on.
And in addition to that, he revealed what was really going on during the 2016 primary, which a lot of people was inconvenient to talk about that. and it was rude to Hillary. So,
Oh, did
He's
we
so
say
sexist.
did we say Hillary Clinton again? Did we hear that
Like,
word, that
we
name
don't.
The
again?
question
Queen
that
of
I always
warmongers.
like to ask is, if Julian were actively publishing, what would we have learned about the 2020 elections from either side?
Oh
Oh,
God! Don't even
jeez.
talk about it. It
Oh
makes
my
me
gosh.
sad.
Oh
there's
my
a book
gosh.
that came
There
out
should be
recently on
1,000 WikiLeaks across the globe, at least 1,000 WikiLeaks across the globe, doing exactly what Julian Assange is doing about every
Right.
single government and corporation and NGO and charity and everything. Like that, that should be on constant. That's how it should work, fams. Like the people in power should have absolutely no privacy, none. They should have no privacy. We should have all the privacy in the world. They should have none. We have that reversed right now. We have to
That's
flip
right.
it.
Well,
We
they
have
have
to
to
flip
make
that.
sure by 2020 that the spotlight was off of them and they could continue to rig the primaries any way they would like, because if they let Julian be free, he would
Mm.
continue to report on what's going on. There's already books
Mhm.
coming out about backroom, smoke room deals, what was happening behind the scenes of past presidents like Bill Clinton and Barack Obama giving speeches saying this will never be the party of Bernie. We will make sure of that. We will never allow it.
More stuff's going to keep coming out, but it's going to be at a drizzle, and that's how they like it. And that's why they don't like Julian Assange, because he was putting out massive dumps of information
Well, Joe
that
had
made them
talked
look really
about
bad.
the leaks in question, these Bush era leaks that came out during the Obama administration.
Mhm.
When Obama was actually questioned about Cablegate and the Guantanamo Bay files and the renditions and the torture,
Mm,
he literally went as far as to say, "We tortured some folks," and just moved on to the next question. And
It's not torture,
and when
it's an
the revelation of the 15,000 misclassified civilian deaths came through as enemy combatants, and when that was revealed through WikiLeaks, through Cablegate and the Iraq and Afghan war logs, um, Obama said, "We're not going to look back, we're going to look forward. We're not interested
That's right.
in prosecuting those crimes, we're interested in moving forward," which basically
No,
said,
he's not interested in prosecuting those crimes. He wants to commit his own.
right.
And,
Right.
Well, that's what it came down to, yes. And
Yeah.
that's part of the big problem. Now, one of the things that's interesting is at this particular time, 2010, 2011, I was in Afghanistan. I was an intelligence analyst. I was doing an awful lot of intelligence analysis and work, what was going on in Afghanistan, particularly down along the Afghan-Pakistan border. And this was an interesting situation because at that time, as an intelligence analyst for the military, I was active duty at the time. What Chelsea Manning and Edward Snowden were doing were reflecting an awful lot on what I was doing. And I understood exactly how it was they managed to make everything happen, how they managed to acquire the information, how they managed to get it out. And it's really scary how easy it actually is, the amount of trust they place in the people to maintain the security on those systems. But Chelsea, Snowden, both managed to get the information out. And most of it was extremely damning information about the operations that we had going on. Now, is that true across all of the military? Well, I was in at the time, so I'm not going to wrap myself out. But no, there was an awful lot that was going on that we really needed to be more honest with the people about, as far as how we were conducting the operations in Afghanistan, how we were conducting operations in Iraq, as well as some of the other things that just continued to happen time and time again because we didn't learn lessons. You know,
That's actually one of the things that Julian talked about in an interview about Cablegate and about the Iraq and Afghan war logs, and it was that the members of the military are the most powerful voices. They're the voices of dissent, and that whistleblowing, like what Chelsea and even Snowden had done, even though he wasn't the same type of military member with the same intelligence, that's a form of dissent, that's a form of
absolutely
passively resisting or actively resisting the military peacefully. Where in Vietnam you had soldiers throwing hand grenades into tents to end the war. The only way that we're going to end these wars that we're in is the proverbial hand grenade, which is whistleblowing, and having media institutions big enough to carry that message into the mainstream.
Well, and we got a report on Afghanistan maybe about 6 months ago or 8 months ago, which said that everything that we were told about Afghanistan during the time of Afghanistan was a lie. But hey, if it was 6 months ago or 8 months ago, that would have put us in 2020. And the war in Afghanistan began in 2001, October 7th, 2001. And there's still, arguments about when the United States is going to leave.
Listen, now we can't do it too fast. You have to go slow. We can't do it too quickly. I'm so tired of hearing that.
20 years later, and we're going to leave private contractors there as well.
How much time do you need? How much time do you need? You're the United States of America and you can't figure out how to get out of a country. I'll draw you a map. I'll draw you a map.
And then learning now, I just want to say this one last thing. Learning now that of something that's been going on for 20 years, that's why we need the people like Julian Assange and Snowden and Manning and Daniel Ellsberg. Remember him?
Daniel Hale. Shout out to Daniel Hale. Everybody get loud about that. He's still incarcerated right now, waiting for his trial. It's ridiculous. They said it's for his mental health. That's bullshit, and we all know it.
Oh, wow.
So we need to talk about Daniel Hale, please. I don't know if we're talking about that tonight, Andrew. Sorry. I keep bringing up shit.
I don't have Daniel Hale on the dock for tonight.
Okay.
But
there's not been any new news.
When we go back to DC in July, if he's held in the same penitentiary, we'll be able to hold a protest because it's right nearby Washington, DC.
Yeah, we'll bring lots of whistles, fams. We can do that.
Joe, I'm sorry. I stepped on your line there. What were you going to say?
Whose line?
Joe's.
Oh.
One of the things that we deal with regards to the whistleblowing and the issues along those lines. Right now, one of the most active things that the veterans are doing, you start looking at Twitter handles like Maryland Vet for Peace, my own. We support an operation. It's actually a conservative group called BringOurTroopsHome.us. And we've been pushing that one for quite a bit. Reason why is because that shoots for bringing our troops out, and it's moving through conservative arrangements. It's moving through using conservative language so that we're actually reaching out to the fans of Bush. We're reaching out to the other fans along those lines and finding the ways to make those work in our favor. But it's about doing that peace movement right now while it's important, reminding people that it has been 20 years, that we are still continuing to fight the fight, that we've been there longer than we've been in Vietnam, that we need to bring the troops home, and we need to put an end to these unconstitutional wars. We go back and we take a look at it. We haven't had a constitutionally declared war for the United States since 1941. Last time we declared war was when we made the declaration against, I believe it was Romania back in 41. The last declaration we made in support of the war in Europe for World War II. Everything since then has been a police action. It's been in support of UN peacekeeping. It's been in support of the military-industrial complex. It has been the motions to maintain the status quo in a war that, well, it's endless. We keep recycling these storylines. We keep recycling the propaganda. We keep saying we need to be here. Biden comes in and we immediately move the propaganda from saying, we're doing it in order to preserve peace here in the United States. We fight the enemy abroad. And boom, Biden's in, and it's like, no, we need to keep troops in there for women's rights because the women are being abused in Afghanistan. But how fast can you change the narrative on this? Why are we there?
But that was
for no other reason than to preserve the war machine.
That rationale was given in 2001 and torn apart as time went on. So now, but now they're going back. I liked the one when Biden decided to bomb Syria, right? The first time he dropped bombs on Syria, and people said, "Oh, what is it? New boss, same old thing," and then
New
and
boss,
then the
new
next
deal boss, yes.
the next day, 2 days later, there was a story how Biden decided not, he was going to drop a second bomb, but he wouldn't drop the second bomb because there was a woman and child in the area. And so he said, no, don't.
Oh yeah, that was funny. Really? Come on. That was it's so ridiculous, the level of pandering and like these
Well-
pathetic platitudes surrounding these evil, like these are psychopaths.
Well, Daniel Hill showed us that Biden was part of an administration that literally had baseball cards made for
Oh,
the
yes.
targets of the
Oh,
U.S.
yes.
drone programs, and they would sit down in the Oval Office and
Yes.
thumb through baseball cards of the people that they wanted to assassinate, and then 98 something-ish% of the time got the wrong person and had to try again.
Oof.
Yeah.
And
Can
we're
you
literally
imagine the
just
level of depravity
carpet bombing.
that it takes?
Yeah.
I mean, just the level of scumbag you have to be to make literal, and that's not us making shit up. They had literal baseball cards essentially. I mean, that's like, but that's what it was. It was like a little card with a person's picture and all of their supposed misdeeds and what makes them bad. And according to us, and we all know that we never get it wrong. And
we never do anything
choose who to
bad
kill.
either. Yeah.
Right. No, come on. It's all nothing but sunshine and rainbows and eagles and fireworks.
But
That's it.
to me, when I heard that about the baseball cards, that's a war crime right there. We're not the United States. No country is able to say, oh, and remember Suleiman when Trump bombed and killed Suleiman when he was in Iraq, no less. Iranian general who was in Iraq. So where the United States can just decide at a drop of a hat, we don't like you said, we don't like you, bomb, goodbye, you're gone. Those are all war crimes that somebody like Julian Assange would report on, right? But he's behind bars. He can't do it.
Well, we had an intelligence operation in 2017 that's still active but not active, which was QAnon, that made those kinds of things acceptable for a fighting the deep state politician, right? To where Trump launches missiles on what is now proven to be a false flag, and it's justified by his followers, by the people that want to stop these infringements on global liberty, as just missiles, is literally what the post on the message board said, that got an entire community of anti-war activists on the right to just go along with drone striking politicians or drone striking countries. And
what's
so
the name of the operation again? I didn't.
The QAnon.
Oh, QAnon.
Oh,
Cool.
Yeah. It was a counter-reinforcing
A psyop.
propaganda campaign alongside Russiagate to essentially secure the expansion of the military intelligence state through the Trump presidency, essentially.
And listen, once you know that these things exist, you do have to are really good at this. Like the people who create these propaganda campaigns and the people who, use information as a weapon, they're very gifted. And they know exactly how to manipulate people into thinking what they want them to think and who they want them to be mad at. And it's very dangerous. And they're really gifted. They're really talented. And that's what we're up against. And that's kind of a big thing because it's a lot. That's scary because if we don't, and we're this close to losing our ability to fight back against that because of what's happening to Julian Assange, what we see happening to journalists at protests across the globe, especially in the United States, seeing they're lining them up and taking their pictures and photographing their IDs and putting them in like their information into an app so they can track them. And there's a lot of really, really bad things happening right now in terms of the First Amendment and the slow and steady systematic destruction of it in broad daylight. And nobody seems to be paying attention. And I get it's because we've talked about this. I get it's because it's a very abstract thing to people. It's not in your face every day. It's not like, oh, I can't buy groceries, or oh, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to put gas in my car to be able to get to work tomorrow, or whatever, those like everyday, like actual, like like what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of crises,
Palpable,
um
almost.
and
Like,
so it's more like back burner. It's not something, and people don't have time to pay attention to all of the ways that they are stripping that away from us. And but it's also very frustrating to me because we're virtually handing it over, like, willingly. A lot of people are cheering for this.
Well, and also I think a lot of people don't realize how much propaganda is being spread out there. So the idea of, somebody like Julian Assange being silenced, it's not, it does, if you know what the media are doing, and the corporations who run the media, and what they're trying to do and sell us on, it matters. But if you're a person who just simply wants to put on MSNBC or CNN or Fox News, you're not even, I don't know how many are questioning the truth of what they're being told.
That's the
Um,
point, though. That's what makes it so hard, because they're very
yeah,
good at convincing those people. And people are just busy. A lot of people are
that's
working
right.
like 2 and 3 jobs. They have families. They have to get to soccer practice, and they have to pick up their dry cleaning, and mow the lawn and all those other things. And so, and
Exactly.
they live in a world where they've been told that MSNBC is a valid news source, and that if they watch it, they'll be informed. And they've really done a great job of convincing people that that's reality, and that's not reality. You're getting state propaganda every single day on mainstream media. There is no question. There's no doubt. Don't fool yourself. That's what you're getting. And you have to be
Right.
willing to look outside those information sources and get a bigger picture, a fuller picture, because you're not getting the whole story in any way. And I get that people are busy, and a lot of times, even there are a lot of people who pay attention none whatsoever. They don't watch any news. But when people do watch news, it's like, it's not still like they don't have a lot of time to be able to find this information. You have to be able to look, like, search. It's not readily
Right.
available. Algorithms kill it. They don't show, like, it's not available in mainstream circles, so you really have to look for it, and a lot of people just don't have that time. And so
No.
that's what we're really up against. I say it all the time, the fight for narrative control and against propaganda, that is the front line of everything, because if they control the information and the conversation, you can't win on any issue.
No, that's a lot of truth to that.
Well, that's one of the beautiful things about social media and the way everything's panned out over the last couple of years. Yeah, and one of the great things that COVID has brought to light is the ability of us to be able to talk about these issues, to be able to get the discussion and change the discussion. People are no longer relying on mainstream media. They're going to these alternate news sources. They're listening to people with different backgrounds other than a journalism degree that was spoon-fed to them through one of the journalism schools, one of the classic journalism schools that basically taught them how to network, how to associate, how to go and find access, but not necessarily find truth. So here we are, we're actually having a discussion. We're looking at a bunch of people with a bunch of different backgrounds right now. We're having this discussion. I was in Afghanistan in 2010, 2011. I was in Iraq in 2008. I was on the ground. I was taking a look at the exact sort of information that Manning and others were able to bring to Assange as part of the whistleblowing process. And I understood why it needed to go out at the time. And it's bringing people like me, getting our voices out to be heard so that we can tell people what the ground truth was at those critical points in time, so that we are no longer dependent upon the mainstream media spin. So right now, you see more and more people going to podcasts. You see more and more people spending 4 hours listening to people like us talk about these issues, listening to the news and the feeds and the way we put together the information that Assange created, whether it's related to the Panama Papers, whether it's related to the Afghanistan papers. We can step out of that, and we can actually use our First Amendment rights in a way that has never been seen in the history of America since Benjamin Franklin.
But we're not going to have that ability for very long because they've
Exactly.
been totally clamping down on our ability to. And look at what they're doing on Twitter right now. Palestinian journalists are getting their pages taken down. Boom, like that. Like just you're done. You're saying if you say something bad about Israel, you're done. If like when I tweet about Assange, which I do all the goddamn time, it's shadow banned. Like I'll have tweets about like my kid talking about farts that will get like hundreds of likes. And but I tweet about Assange and it's like 14, 24 likes, something like that, maybe a few retweets. And it's clear, it's very obvious that like just people are just not seeing them. It's what they do. They took Donald Trump completely, the president of the United States, completely off the internet. Pinterest. They took him off of Pinterest. Like they erased him from the internet. Boom, the president. You think that they didn't do that like they're going to stop there? No, if they can do it to the president, they can absolutely. You're telling me that you think that Twitter and Facebook should have the ability, Pinterest should have the ability to wipe a human being off of all social media like you never existed? That's the town square now. And I'm sorry, here's another rant, but I really am tired of hearing people tell me that, oh, well, they're private corporations. No, they're fucking not. They are the government. They are completely intertwined. They are completely. Look at the Atlantic Council. Facebook and the Atlantic Council go hand like there's no like air in between the two of them. People like Henry Kissinger sit on that board. They are completely intertwined with our government. They are government entities. I don't care if that's not the technical term for it or legally. I don't give a shit. We need to do something about that. They are not private corporations. They have extremely vested interests in our government and the way things run, and they have complete control over that. They buy politicians. Look at how much Google donates to politicians. You really want them having control over who gets to have speech? What the fuck, you guys? That's not a good thing. I don't care who you are. I don't care what side of the aisle or what label you use for yourself. I don't give a shit. That's not good for anybody. We need to stop that right now. Stop that. Stop giving that poor ass excuse. They're a private corporation. No, they're not.
What was the World War II politician? Government and corporations stronger together? Oh, yeah, Mussolini.
That's the historical definition of fascism.
Fascism, absolutely.
Yeah. Right. That's where it comes together is the fascists. This is the corporations. This is government. It is stronger together. Together, we are taking a look at the corporate propaganda machine, which is heavily regulated by U.S. government agencies. It prevents organizations like KRTD and Action for Assange to be able to spread the news because they can keep coming back and creating barriers to entry. How hard is it to actually get into journalism? How hard is it to create the audience for your podcast? How is it, now some people got real big boosts. You see Joe Rogan, he gets, some others that get out there, but a lot of it comes back to, were they enabled because the vast majority of their talking points were politically acceptable? Did they fit in the Overton window at the time? Do they continue to fit in the Overton window? They cancel Joe Rogan on a regular basis, but for some reason he just manages to maintain on the edge of it.
Oh man, Joe Rogan fucking kills me. Just to hop in at this one little point here. He fucking had when Gina Haspel was being sworn in as director of the CIA, Joe Rogan had a former CIA agent on that explained how it was so nice that a woman was going to be the head of the CIA. Instead of someone that you would think would be part of the anti-war right that would bring on like a Ray McGovern, who was actively being thrown out of the room to talk about her as a torturist, that literally
It's really weird that he did that, actually.
Yeah.
I always figured he would be very anti-war, very anti-torture, very anti-CIA. I mean, like he's kind of a libertarian, sort of. I mean, I don't know that much about him, to be honest with you. But yeah, that was really weird to me that he would bring on and to use the woman thing pisses me off. Oh my God. Yeah. Girl power. Yeah. Female torturers. Woo. What the fuck is that? It's so good. That's not who I want my girls looking up to. I have 2 daughters. Like people told me I was supposed to be grateful that Kamala Harris was vice president because she's a woman. Ew. No. I'm never, ever going to be proud as a woman that Kamala Harris is the vice president.
Look at the people that the neoliberals idolize now is, the feminist icons. And you go, why would I be proud that my child should grow up to be like that? You know,
I would feel like I failed.
Right?
Well,
I would feel like I failed as a parent, 100%.
I mean, this is where identity politics really goes awry, because it isn't about whether it's, black, white, brown, male, female, non-binary. It's not about the identity of the person. It's about the policy. And these policies are just not right for people around the world. And we got to get into looking at the policies. Look at what Kamala Harris did when she was in California as a
And
prosecutor.
That's such a great point. Because seriously, what has she done for women? What has she locked up mothers? You know what I mean? Like, that's what she did. She locked up poor black mothers
didn't go to school.
Yeah. Yes. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't care that she is a woman. What has she done for women? That's what it should be about.
That's
and
what
it's not about that. I really don't care. I don't care if it's some old white dude who gets women health care or who gets women universal child care so that they can have a job and that they can have a career if they choose to have one. Okay, that's if it's an old white dude, then hell yes. I don't give a shit. I don't care if it's a woman and the woman is actively working against women.
Is we're in a moment in the world where it would be a white male politician screaming now after 40 years, my body, my choice, trying to get freedom of autonomy over their body from the government, that would be representing the feminist movement that has been crying that same thing for years. So we're even at this weird impasse where someone representing those things would be representing the total opposite side, supposedly, of the political spectrum. And it's because people don't think of ideas as principles. They think of them as like political talking points and punching bags.
Well, that's why, when I'm run as an independent or run as a green for governor or senator or whatever it is, one of the things we say all the time now is policy over party. It isn't about the political party. It isn't about the gender. It's about the policy. And one of the things that we've lost is that grassroots journalism, local. I mean, we're talking about the corporate media, and while media all around us, the local reporters who would cover the town council meetings or the county business or whatever, those, or even foreign international relations, those are the people that are getting cut from newspapers or internet newspapers.
They're also being bought.
Local newspapers are gone.
Yeah, they are.
In New York, we have 3 New York cable stations, or antenna stations rather, or one cable and 2 antenna, but they're both owned by major corporations, and they absorbed some of the smaller ones that used to do local journalism. They got absorbed into like the Fox New York or CBS New York. They bought those.
That's what always happens. Consolidation of power. That's what's been happening. That's why we have, 5 or 6 corporations that own 90% of our media. That's a problem. That's a problem.
Yeah, it is.
That's really, and that's another thing that really baffles me, that people are just okay with and seem to just be accepting of, like, oh yeah, that's normal. No, that's terrible. That's really bad. You do not want that kind of consolidation of information. Mm-mm.
It's good business, don't you know?
It sure is. But it's not good for the people.
Well,
somebody's making a lot of money.
Monopolization. You have 6 industries that control all of the media. Well, I think we're down to 3 now with the latest Disney purchases. But I mean, we have Disneyfied America. Our communication structure, our culture, our everything about it has gone through this soft deculturalization of Disneyfied. In the way we do things all across America right now, the new Americana, the new poverty, the new, it's all been carefully tailored through Disney propaganda in order to make it seem acceptable these days. To be the struggling anti-hero in where resistance becomes service, in that weird, bizarre twist of fate. You start looking back in history and where we are in the American empire right now, as far as our global reach, our force projection, the way we have troops. We are the new modern British Empire. the sun never sets on an American service member.
Mm.
We got so many troops deployed everywhere around the world. The sun is always shining on an American shoulder patch somewhere in the world.
800 plus U.S. military bases around the world, and there are only 190 or 200 countries. So
Yeah,
that's conservative. That's a conservative estimate.
What, the 800? The 800?
Yeah.
I said 800
Yeah.
plus.
But yeah, that's
800
definitely
plus.
conservative. I think it's well over 1,000.
Well,
sure.
that could be. And then, that on the flip side, the closest country after us would be, it's either Russia, it might be Russia or China, with about 8.
Yeah.
You know, so
yes,
so,
and that's not even counting all the black sites that we have, and
yeah,
we know
exactly.
we have them. I mean, look at
That's right.
what was it? Al Masri. It was the torture victim that Julian Assange helped in the WikiLeaks releases helped in court. He testified at Julian's hearings. Well, kind of. They read his testimony in court, which Julian almost got thrown out of court for standing up to defend him because they were trying to silence a torture victim's voice in court, which is always a good look, you know.
Right.
And then they happen to have technological issues, so he couldn't verbally testify in court.
It's weird how that always happened, like just at the right time, you know? That's always nice.
You mean you believe in some of these conspiracy kind of things?
Oh, yes. I'm such a conspiracy theorist. I really am. You know, the people who think I'm a Russian bot like to call me a conspiracy theorist, and it's always fun.
I got this great response. So I've been called a Russian bot on Facebook and Twitter so many times. I will respond in Russian. I will go to Google Translate and I will respond in Russian.
Yes, I've done that too. My Twitter name is literally Comrade Misty is Putin's buddy, because it's like a whole thing, like from two or 3 years ago or longer, probably. Shit, I don't even know how. My name's been that forever. It did change for a while once we started the attempted coup on Venezuela. I did change it to Comrade Misty is Maduro's amiga. So I did change it for a little bit because it seemed like we were going after Venezuela for a while. Then that kind of cooled off, and Russia just never seems to go away. So I feel like that's a safe thing to just stick with, you know?
Well, yeah, their hackers just supposedly they just hacked somebody.
Colonial Pipeline. Okay, don't forget, we've been covering this on MCSC. Robbie Yeager has been doing. I'm sorry, I get a little brag on my friend break here. But Robbie Yeager is an amazing independent journalist. He's been doing fantastic fucking work on Colonial Pipeline. There's been a spill going on since August of 2020 that nobody's talking about. It's like at 1.2 million gallons of gas that has been spilled in North Carolina, and nobody's talking about it. And that estimate is not even right. Like they just came out with another thing where they're like, actually, it's really a lot worse, but we don't even know, like they don't even know how to deal with it now. They don't even know how to measure it. I think at this point they're like really have no idea. And it's just very convenient that now there just happens to be this, you know, supposed cyber hack into their system. And it just happens when Robbie's doing a fantastic job of getting the story out there and making sure that people are talking about it. Lee Camp's covered it. Jimmy Dore has covered it. We've been really trying to push it because it's it's maybe the biggest leak in US history, and nobody's talking about it at all. It's crazy.
And now, if you can use Russia as a cover for this, people start running. I mean, I don't know how many times we heard Russia, 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 and it worked. It worked, and then it was brought out again for something else. It's that Russia did it. It's been brought out so many times. I hope. I mean, we're in a new Cold War probably already. And it doesn't help. All it does is build up the military-industrial complex. That's what it does, and keeps people's minds away from what's really going on. And it needs to. I'm so tired of it. I would have a discussion with somebody about a policy matter. As soon as they said Putin would love it, or I said, that's it. I'm done. You have no more credibility with me.
Listen,
I'm not talking about you.
Lord Putin is very clever. Do not disparage Lord Putin. He's very clever. He controls everything, literally all the things. I don't know why people are even attempting to fight back. He is all powerful, and you should just accept Lord Putin as your Lord and Savior.
And isn't he dying from cancer right now?
Who? Putin?
Putin, isn't that
He's
the
never
latest
going to
one?
die.
Yeah.
He's faking his own death, obviously, so that he can go, rule from a fancy
Right.
beach somewhere sipping a
He's
mimosa.
faking his death so he can do a face swap and come back as who's the new guy who's supposed to be replacing him?
I don't know. He's not important, clearly.
And that's
Yeah,
the
but
go-to line. If someone's a problem, oh, it's Putin. Like you had Hillary Clinton say Julian Assange is controlled by Putin. Then you had her say, in the same
Tulsi
sentence,
Gabbard
Oh my
is a
God,
Putin
Tulsi
puppet.
Gabbard is
Tulsi
Yeah.
Gabbard and
Right.
Jill Stein. In one set, I'm like watching the news and I see Hillary. Tulsi Gabbard and Jill Stein are controlled by Putin. I don't know if Jill Stein wants to give up her seat to the other Russian agent, Tulsi. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes. And then she's also somebody who will tell you to respect the troops. But she's okay with calling a major in the Army National Guard, for an agent. It's fine. That's fine.
Here's
I
an
love
interesting
liberal hypocrisy. It's one of my favorite things.
When
really
has
is.
anybody who has said respect the troops ever advocated for increased benefits and pay raises for the
respect
troops
the troops is
themselves?
bullshit anyway. Fuck off with
It
that
is,
noise.
but
No,
they
I don't
use
just
it.
blanketly respect the troops. Are there some people who serve in the military who are decent people who got propagandized into thinking that they were going to go serve their country? Yes, absolutely. But I don't blanket support anybody. That's ridiculous.
No, but it doesn't. It's not what it means. People think it
No.
means something that it doesn't.
Right. No, I
So,
know. That's
Joe,
because they've been propagandized. Again, it comes back to the propaganda.
I have
Everything
a
is.
question. As someone who's a ex-analyst, we've had Ray McGovern on, we've had Bill Binney on, and others.
right.
I have a question that I don't think I ever had a chance to ask them, but I think you might have an interesting answer to. Chelsea Manning was one of 100,000 people that had access to the information that she had.
Yes.
Edward Snowden was one of maybe dozens of people, if that had access to that information. Joshua Schultz, who's not even proven to be the whistleblower, has never confessed to be the whistleblower of the Vault 7 releases, was one of maybe tens of people that had access to the Vault 7 documents.
Right.
And I was just wondering what you thought of that massive change in probability from it being a 1 in 100,000 chance of a whistleblower being an analyst all the way now down to 1 in 10s potentially, if it's even him that did it.
This one's actually an interesting discussion. Reason why is because you are picked to be a military analyst for certain character traits. Of course, intelligence has to be one of them, and as you've seen happen with people who are generally smart who go into the military, I hate to say it, but there's a degree of sociopathy that also goes with it. Certain disregard for the general welfare of people. Now that's not everybody, but you have to be able to compartmentalize what it is you're taking a look at, what it is you're watching see happen, because you're watching people being destroyed. You were seeing people being killed. You're doing battle damage assessments of the battlefield from imagery. You're listening to conversations from people who were able to, who survived a drone attack. You're getting into the minds of the people in the culture, whether you're in Afghanistan and you're doing that, you're listening to your Terp go over the voice and translate it, and you're reading their translation of what's being said, what they thought they were going there to do, what ended up happening, when you misconstrue code words because your interpreter wasn't as forthcoming as they should have been with certain information because they have tribal affiliations or dislikes for certain tribes where certain communications were misrepresented. You find out later, like the kid who did the drone strike, find out that he just took out, a little girl with an American mother whose father absconded, and it's like, I just killed an innocent American girl. How do you go through and continue to justify that time and time again while you're working from an analyst point of view? And it comes down to an ability to disassociate. Now, where you start running into issues with where disassociation doesn't work real well is Chelsea and Manning. Okay, higher degree of empathy, a certain amount of other things that go with who Chelsea is that prevented her from being able to fully disassociate from the damage that she saw being done in these communities. So you start taking a look at that, and the number of people who have access to this information who just continue to go along with it is because they've managed to separate themselves from what's happening. You know,
Well,
they're
and
no
they've also
longer-
been able to effectively use people like Chelsea Manning
yeah,
to scare them. And so, do you want to be tortured? Because she has been twice
Yeah, she
for
has.
long periods of time. And so, again, that's the other part of the chill. It's not just on journalism; it's also on whistleblowing. The chilling effect that's taken place, just from what Chelsea Manning leaked,
Right.
has been substantial. And that's, I mean, I think we would see a shit ton more whistleblowers if they weren't tortured and demonized and
Well-
slandered and smeared and it's intense. I can't imagine wanting to go through that.
It's not torture. It's enhanced interrogation.
enhanced interrogation.
Right. And they're just
Anyway,
overflow facilities.
anyway. But one of the
Right.
things, you step back and you take a look at that, is at the close of the Bush administration, one of the things we heard Obama constantly say was, we're going to end the interrogation. We're going to give more respect to the whistleblower.
close
We're
Guantanamo.
going to pay attention
Yeah.
to what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, the people who have something to say about what we are doing wrong, we are going to listen to. And that's what we heard all through Obama's, campaign. The fact that we were going to end the war, that we were going to bring our troops home, and that we were going to pay attention to the whistleblowers.
What were
And
we going to
so-
end, Joe? I don't remember him saying anything about that. Honestly.
So the
He was-
scary part, we do research into old news articles from like 2010, 2011, and there was actually a big weird push in independent leftist media saying that the war in Iraq ended. And it's because in the
never ended.
media it ended
Yeah.
and then the occupation started.
Right.
Right. So that,
good
that
point.
was actually a crazy thing for me to go back and like read old like Democracy Now articles where they say the Iraq war ended, where it obviously didn't. They obviously have articles now about it. But that was
Right.
even the like circulation back then, was that it was ending, almost in the way that the war in Afghanistan is ending on 9/11 this year.
I
Well,
think that's
and-
one of the most interesting things that I've had to do, like recently. Well, not recently, but over the past several years, is go because doing this and like researching WikiLeaks and all that stuff. You do have to go back and look at a ton of historical media
Mhm.
coverage, and
Right.
it is really super interesting, especially now that I've always been well aware of propaganda, but now I have like a really I really can see it now. And so now going back and looking at stuff that maybe back then I had different thinking on, and then to look at it with new eyes, it's really interesting. And I highly recommend people do it. Go back. Like I've often said, you have to be kind of a really big nerd to do it. But if you're really interested in how propaganda works, go back and look at what they've done to Julian Assange. Seriously, go back
Right.
and look at the
Yes.
smears and the slander campaign. And it's over a decade long. So it's like a really good case study. And it is extremely, this is going to sound terrible, but I mean this in the same way that when I say that I find serial killers fascinating, that's what I mean by this. It is really fascinating to look at. It's horrifying and terrifying and depressing and all of those things too, but it's extremely fascinating to see what they do and how effective they are and how they're able to move from story to story and news cycle to news cycle, and how they're able to play stories off of each other. It's really, really, really fascinating.
Even
Right.
to
You
this
just
day,
reminded me. You reminded me of something too when you said the Iraq War ended. I remember people in the anti-war movement supposedly saying, "Well, there's nothing more we're going to be able to do about Iraq, so let's move on to something else." And I remember saying, "But wait a second. There's still troops. There are things still going on. We have to keep working until every last troop is brought home." And then it makes me think about how we talked about narrative and propaganda. if you're a Democrat, many people who are Democrats, they will only go as far as the Democrats go. So when for the longest time people said, where's the anti-war movement? Where are the people in the streets after Obama got elected? Well, because the Democrats weren't asking people to do that anymore. They weren't asking people to oppose because the commander-in-chief was a Democrat.
The other thing they had was Obama had his Obama for America groups and all of these groups of activists. And when he got elected, he just started to dismantle these groups and send everybody home because he had no intention of using that public pressure to do anything. He had no interest in continuing on with those groups.
Yeah, so I mean, it's if you're looking for the Democratic Party to tell you what to do, you're. I get it. Yeah, I like the way you ended that sentence. Just laughter is the way to.
I'm sorry.
No, it's the best way to answer that.
Okay.
To
No,
finish
I wasn't
my
laughing
sentence.
at you, though. I
No,
don't want you
no.
to think I was laughing at you.
No, I didn't. I know it was that the
If
idea
you're the
that.
kind of person, if you're the kind of person who looks to the Democratic Party as like what to do, please curl your fingers into a fist and punch yourself in the face. You have earned it. Please, you have earned it. Oh, these people that are still floating around like we're going to reform the party. Oh, stop it. Please stop it.
Move him to the left. Move him to the left. Yeah.
They tried that already with the Justice Dems, and they failed miserably with that project.
They moved the Justice Democrats to the right.
The party
of
is
Sarah
worse.
Palin. The Justice Democrats are more pro-war and anti-First Amendment than Sarah Palin is.
Yes. Yes. Bernie Sanders. Sarah Palin spoke for Julian Assange before Bernie Sanders. Do you understand? Like what that means?
Wow.
The party is worse than it has ever been, ever. Like Bernie Sanders 5 years ago is like, we're going to transform the Democratic Party into a party of the working class, and fuck off, dude. You turned into an establishment douche canoe who runs around simping for, like, he went on a hand-holding tour with Tom Perez. Stick him in the back with a knife, Tom Perez. Like, that was shown in WikiLeaks. Bernie Sanders went on tour with him. That's where your progressive movement is. That's how you've changed the Democratic Party. Please stop it. It's madness. It is holding us back. It is holding us back.
Given up, it looks like. At this point, he's old. He's going to retire in like 2 years.
He never was in it. He didn't give up. He was never in it. He's always been playing his role since the 90s.
You go back and you look, he made a deal with the Democratic Party in order to even get elected.
In the 90s. He has been a party soldier since the 90s.
Well, to quote Susie Dawson, who is quoting the Netflix documentary about Hillary Clinton, the only time Hillary Clinton told the truth in her whole life is in that documentary. There's a 2-minute clip of her talking about Bernie Sanders, and all she
there's
says
a longer clip
is Bernie Sanders will sell out at the most key moment to get the most out of it. And that's
he does that with everything.
That's like the only truth that woman has ever told in her whole life.
The other thing is you sell out to Hillary, though. You can't. I don't think that's a smart move. You can never trust her.
He has sold out many times. He sold out to Boeing. He got the F-35 into Vermont so that he could make money. He got anti-war protesters arrested. He got anti-war protesters. I got arrested at a protest. And he used that pander to people and try to big up himself on the left.
That was like 60 years ago.
But you also got anti-war protesters arrested because you didn't want it to fuck with your ability to get reelected. Really, dude? I got no love for that. Oh no, I'm no fan of Bernie Sanders. I think he has done so much damage to an actual leftist movement. It's not even funny.
Everybody in Washington has. I'm not sure if you've ever seen what's his name, Kyle Kalinske. He calls it Washington brain, where you go into Washington and you think these people are your friends.
Kyle's got a little bit of Washington brain.
He does.
Yeah,
he definitely does. Term. I like that term because you go in there, you see your friends. These are not nobody sent you there to make friends with these people. We don't really care how well you get along with Chuck Schumer. We care how well you fight with Chuck Schumer.
I don't want you to hang out with Chuck Schumer. I don't want you to hang out with Nancy Pelosi. I don't want you calling Nancy Pelosi Auntie or Mama Bear. That's Are you kidding me? The whole point
So the
let's bitch about the
Brazilian,
squad for a minute. Let's bitch about the squad for a minute, because the whole point of them going there was to fight the Democratic establishment. The Democratic establishment, not Republicans. The Democratic establishment. And instead, they're doing Rolling Stone covers with Nancy Pelosi, calling her mama bear and auntie, and talking about simping for Juan Guaido and Alexei Navalny. And
the original name for Justice Democrats was Tea Party of the Left. They wanted them to be the Tea Party of the left, and they just weren't.
well, I mean, technically
they didn't
are.
want
If
it.
you
I don't
look
think
at
they
how
wanted it.
Jim Jordan, who's like the poster child of the Tea Party, interacts with the system, it's literally the same thing. He gives lip service to whatever the hot button issue is on social media, and then does whatever the fuck the establishment wants him to do. And then you have
the Tea
Mary
Party
Taylor
merged
Greene.
with the establishment, but they did get some concessions a while back before they did.
Come on.
They made the Republican Party.
Pago? No, they didn't get shit.
No,
They got
I'm not saying
some.
the Democratic
They got some like
progressive.
names on post offices.
No, I'm saying
Well,
the
I
Tea
think-
Party.
I
The
do
actual
think.
Oh, the Tea Party? No, the Tea Party did great. The Tea Party did okay.
No, I'm
They
saying
did all
the
right.
Tea
Look at the party now. They completely flipped them to the right. That was the whole
That's
point.
what I'm saying. I wasn't saying
Yeah,
the
no, but the
progressives. I was saying
squad
the Tea
didn't
Party
get
got what they
shit.
wanted.
Well,
Well,
that's why we have to say, we have to acknowledge that the Democratic Party is where social movements go to die.
And
And if we're defining progressivism
Okay.
as the people within the Democratic Party, we're doomed to say, as somebody did, and I had to respond to them, that in New Jersey, the progressive movement is dead. It isn't.
It
The
is.
progressive, no, it isn't.
It is.
Because
Nancy
if you-
Pelosi
no,
calls herself progressive.
No, but if you define progressivism as progressive
They've
Democrats,
defined it for you.
no, but I don't define it that way. I'm a green. And
I
there are
get that.
plenty of people in the streets in New Jersey around certain issues who are not affiliated with the Democratic Party. So I'm saying we need to be careful about saying that progressivism is dead. We need to say within the Democratic Party, it's gone, it's finished. We're not going to
I
get
think
there.
they've co-opted the language to a point that it's irretrievable. That's just my
But-
personal opinion.
Well,
I
But
just
then,
don't.
but,
that it's-
no, but then we're talking about issues. I said we need to talk about policy. There
then we
are
need to not
people
worry
in the
about what it's
streets.
called and just focus on the issues and not worry about whether or
Well,
not it's called progressive and just
the
talk
reason
about
I-
issues.
The reason that I said that is the person said in a big bold headline, progressivism is dead. And I don't
Yeah.
think that helps anybody. I think we
Yeah.
need to redefine it. Maybe we just need to redefine it.
Well, the other thing is
I-
we need a new word. 3
Yeah.
years
Well,
ago.
no.
we
They're
need
just
to
going to
speak
co-opt that.
on the basis
Well,
of
we
policy.
need to
There
go
shouldn't
without a
be-
word.
There
Yes.
shouldn't be a word that represents
Exactly.
a specific
Everybody.
thing.
There's no collective definition
Yeah.
for people.
It-
We
it
have to
should
start
be
thinking
like,
past
I
that and just
stand
talking about
for
singular
blank.
issues and what we can agree on, because that's how they divide us. They
Right,
they
right.
have you thinking you can't
Good
work with
point.
other people who you disagree with, and that's how they win, because then you can't win if you don't come together. I was talking to my friend Kaylee earlier on Twitter, and I said, listen, I don't agree with anybody on earth 100% of the time. I disagree with myself at times. Like there are times that I have disagreed with myself and changed my opinion, and everybody should. And so there's no way that you can shut yourself off. And if I care about something, I'm going to be willing to do whatever it takes to get it done. And if I want to protect press freedom and free speech and get Julian Assange out of prison and make sure that he's safe, I'm going to work with people who are working towards that too, because I want to get
There
it
you
done.
go.
I don't care. Like, I'm
Right.
just more concerned about getting shit done. I don't want to
Right.
feel like sit in my safe space and feel smugly superior. I'm not interested in that. I want to get shit done. And getting shit done, you have to work together. You have
No,
to. You
exactly.
need numbers.
Agreed.
Period.
And
Agreed.
the other
Around the issues.
progressivism, I realized that word was co-opted. I don't remember who did an interview with him.
Everything's co-opted.
It was either TYT or somebody did an interview with Joe Manchin. And he said, I think I'm very progressive. And the second I heard that, he said, I'm a progressive West Virginia Democrat. The second I heard him say that, I knew that word
dead.
meant nothing anymore.
Yes. Yeah. Nancy
Oh,
Pelosi
yeah.
called herself progressive. Hillary Clinton called herself progressive. I mean, it's done. They have
Well,
completely bastardized the terminology. And that's what they always do with language. That's why labels are dumb.
The
That's why I'm
irony, so
independent now.
I like the history of words and where things come from. If you look at the actual original progressive movement in the United States in the early 1900s, it was actually a racist movement built around the idea of subjugating lower classes through wage controls and through the use of eugenics-based abortion programs and things
Right.
like that. So it was actually, and the only regulation that they passed was the ban on alcohol as a constitutional amendment. That was the only win of the progressive era, where they were never, the term until 2016 really never represented an anti-war party, and it was more of a eugenics, pro-war, pro-white worker party.
Yes, it was. And that was the dangerous thing about the progressives in that particular area, was it was all about white supremacy. It was hatted and phrased in a way, Margaret Sanger, whether she was racist, whether you believe she was racist or not, we have uncountable amount of documentation where she went to those meetings and pandered to those people for money in order to facilitate family planning clinics in black neighborhoods. Now, you still see a progressive left and even a conservative right that continue to complain about the number of Planned Parenthood clinics in black communities across America. But whether you look at that from the perspective of the community leaders that said, no, we needed the family planning so that we weren't continuing to spread our resources too thin. You saw black communities stand up and do great things. You saw Black Wall Street in Oklahoma stand up and do incredible, amazing things, clear up until the time when, the local progressives decided that they'd gotten too big for themselves. Central Park in New York was an up-and-coming black community that was doing extremely well until the city of New York came in and eminent domained an entire black community in order to make the park there, the big park. You continue to see that the progressives from that particular era were no friends of the disenfranchised. They supported eugenics. They supported racial-based doctrines. They can, it's just, honestly, it's an atrocious word. Why some people want to continue to use it to describe themselves today, it's like,
because language is important, and a lot of people are just propagandized into thinking it's like what they are.
Well, Joe Manchin can have it.
Yeah, no, I agree.
literally.
Agree. It's policy, as Andrew said a few minutes ago. It's what policies we support and who else supports them with us. And that's, it doesn't have to have a label on it.
That's why I think that putting a label on what you will or will not support really does limit you, because then what happens if you have somebody who identifies as a libertarian, say, who then supports Medicare for all? Are you not going to, or whatever that they're going to support, whatever issue, like Julian Assange? There are a lot of libertarians who support Julian Assange. Am I going to shut myself off from them because I disagree with them on other things? No, that's ridiculous. And I think that the labeling is they divide us into teams. And I think that's why labels are dumb, because it automatically gives you this emotional attachment to something that doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter.
Here's one of the things. You start talking about libertarians. Right now, you've already registered your gripe against the squad. Justin Amash, Thomas Massey. Thomas Massey isn't a libertarian. He's still a Republican.
I have no love for libertarians, by the way, just so you know. None. I don't like any of these tribalist
the
groups.
The thing is Justin Amash and Thomas Massey did more to fight the Trump era misdeeds than any of the Democrats even attempted to. They stepped up and they did work. They worked on trying to get the troops back home. They worked on a number of those.
They supported Assange.
They supported Assange.
They co-sponsored Tulsi Gabbard's bills. I mean, I'll respect like that. Like, I mean, I'm not like trying to get into an argument over like which ideology is better, because I think they all have pros and cons to them. But I'm just saying, I'm not
resistance Nancy Pelosi did when she ripped up the speech. Sinisterly.
Yeah.
But so we have a couple news pieces that we have to cover, and
we do, and it's important.
So I just want to give each of you the chance for final thoughts and to let people know where they can find your you individually, but also your shows. Whoever wants to go first.
Okay, people can contact me through at my Hoffman for Governor 2021 at gmail.com email address. And my final words on this is, couple of you, Andrew, and I forgot. No, I've never met the two of you hosts here, and I find myself agreeing with virtually everything that you said. So it's really inspiring to be on a show with people who cut through the crap and get right down to the core of things. And that's something that we need to do, whether it's through our own independent media, through our own independent political party, our own independent political campaigning. And I'm inspired and strengthened by what we spoke about today. So thank you so much for having me on the show.
Thank you for coming. Who wants to go next? Joe, how about you?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. My handle's ID Joe, as in Idaho Joe. Number 4, Congress. Still my handle from when I was running for Congressional District 1 in the state of Idaho in 2020. And we'll see how things go. But from there, you'll be able to find all my other social media platforms. They're in the bio. And go follow me. Pay attention to what's going on. Absolutely. Assange is one of those heroes of our era. And we need to pay more attention to what's going on with our First Amendment rights.
Absolutely.
As well as journalism and journalistic integrity. The reason why is because the consolidation of power within our media platforms that gives the corporate media the strength it does is one of the most dangerous things to freedom in the United States and around the globe right now. The decentralization of journalism and journalistic power is one of the most essential things we need to see happen in the next 10 years.
Okay.
Couldn't agree more, Joe. Well said.
Yep.
Really well said.
So Shane, before you go, could you talk about the summit a little bit too? Because I did not ask you about that in the opening.
On May 22nd, KRTD Media is putting on the biggest event we've ever put on. It's called the U.S. Solution Summit. There are so many problems in America, and rather than sitting there and complaining like we did in our last event, this time we're going to come up with solutions. And we got some amazing guests. Jimmy Dore is going to be there. Steph Zamorano is going to be there. Combo Couch is going to be there.
Friends of the show. Friends of the show.
Hardlands is going to be there. Franco is going to be there. All these guys are going to be there. And then we have people transcending parties. So we have Democrats, we have Greens, we have Joe's going to be a host. Madeline's going to be a panelist. I'm going to be a host. If anyone wants to find out more, you can sign up for email updates at ussolutionssummit.com. And then you can find us on Twitter at US Solutions SMT, I believe, or you just at KRTD Media. You can find out so much more. It's going to be a 5-hour event, live performer, 6 panels, amazing stuff. So everybody tune in on May 22nd, 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific.
Sweet. Thanks, guys, for coming, and thanks for streaming the show. Seriously, that's awesome.
Thanks to the both of you.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back on.
Anytime.
Cool. All right, guys. Thank you.
Bye
Thanks,
now.
All right, Andrew.
We got a couple things on the dock.
Yep, we have important things to talk about, friends. First of all, do we want to start? Should I start with billboards, or should we start with bad news first?
Start with billboards. Let's start with the good news.
Let's do that because I'm really excited about it, and then I can be depressed. Like, let me get the pumped upness out, and then we can depress me. Okay, so billboards are up. They're live. They went live at midnight, like almost 24 hours ago. They are here. I can. Okay,
I
hold on,
have
because
I'll screen share it.
Okay, thank you, because it will take me. I'll sit here clicking at things, looking like an idiot while I'm trying to figure out how to do it. But I do want to. Stella tweeted about it. So, okay, so this is the GoFundMe actually. So, oh my God, we crossed 5,000. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
that
Okay,
just
I haven't
happened.
checked it for a few hours. Wow. Okay, so we're at $5,026. If we get to 5,500, we can add 2 more billboards. So that's what I'm trying to get to. So if you guys can donate. If you can't, I get it. Please do not put yourself in a bad position. I'm not kidding. Don't do it. But just share, because the more people that see it, the more people who can do a $5 donation here and there. It's awesome. So over the weekend or on Friday, I got all the contracts and stuff, and I had those signed, and I sent them back over the weekend. Then Monday, I did the payment and stuff, and then they went live this morning at midnight. Let me try this.
That's super exciting.
Okay, hold on. I
That's
figured it out.
really
Hold
exciting.
on. Okay, so tell me if it came up. Okay, so this is the tweet that I put out. So today's my kid's birthday. Sorry, I don't really think you hear about that. But so I didn't have time to go and drive by them, obviously, today, because I had birthday shit going on. So being that it's my kiddo's birthday, I don't have time to do the drive-bys for photos, but here are the screenshots from the webcams Lamar has running. They've been live since midnight. And so these are the different locations. This one, if you're in the Columbus area, if you want to drive by them, this one is at 1929 Bryce Road. So you can drive past that one. Or this one is at 3300 South High Street. There's that one, looking good. And then this one is at 107 High Street. This is downtown. This is on the top of a building in downtown Columbus. So all of these
that's so fucking
big ass,
cool.
Yeah, all these big ass buildings, all these offices, they get to look at that all day long, which is dope. So yeah, that's what they look like. And then this, hold
That's
on,
fucking
daisy.
exciting, Misty.
I know. I'm look at me, I'm all giddy. Look at this. This is gonna be fun for you. You ready? Here it comes.
I'm ready.
Did it come up? The anticipation is killing me.
Boom, that's
Did it come up?
awesome. That's so
Yay!
fucking cool.
So Stella likes it, y'all. We did good. So they're up. And those ones are up for 2 weeks. And like I said, if we get to 5,500, don't tell my husband, but I may just do it.
I'll help out a little bit. I'll see if I can't throw you something
I get it.
on Friday.
But we only need 5,500 to get 2 more up, which would be awesome. 5 running for 2 weeks in Columbus, Ohio, which is a pretty major city. I'm sure most of you are aware. That would be awesome. And then I would actually people have been saying this, and for a while I thought, I don't know if this is the proper use of our money because it's pretty expensive, but I would love to get one in DC, or near, you know what I mean? Somewhere in DC.
There's 3 or 4 major billboard companies, and Lamar is one of them. So you already have a person that you can talk to about getting that, which is
and I think
cool.
she's awesome. Okay, so I think her name was Vanessa, was the first girl I talked to, but now I'm working with Krista, and she's very nice. I love her. So shout out to Krista. She's been very helpful, very friendly. She seems, I've been trying not to proselytize to her too much. I don't want to scare her off, and I get that way sometimes. So, but she seems very, and it could just be me reading into it because I want her to be cool. But it seems like she's very open and interested in what's happening. Because I had to explain a little bit of it to her. She sought out our GoFundMe. So I'm actually going to go back through and look and see if I can figure out if she donated, because that would be dope.
That's super fun.
But yeah, she's really awesome. So so I think I could get her to work with me too on pricing, maybe. So yeah, if we get, hold on, let me look. I think we can get 2 more for the 5,500, and I think we can get up to 10. Oops, wrong button. If we want 10 boards for 2 weeks, it's 8,000.
Is there an option to expand time instead of number of boards?
Yes, we can also do that. We can, that's what I may do. I don't know. I may for sure re-up the one in downtown, on the building downtown, because that's pretty dope. Because there are a lot of I've seen where that location is. Like I drove by it before I made the decisions, and where that location is, there are a lot of those, like the building that's to the left in that photo. There are a lot of those. So all of those offices, look at that constantly. Well, okay. And yes, yes. Well, and I also, I hate saying this because I would really hope that we're not still doing this fall, but we may very well be doing this still this fall. And so there's one I'm eyeballing that's right by the shoe, which is our college football stadium. And I'm telling you guys, that would be major. There are
Yeah, that
so
would
many
be
people. It's
huge.
not just the people who come to the game, which is like 105,000 people at every game, but there are all of the tailgaters. I mean, I'm saying this because I live in Ohio and I'm a Buckeye fan, but we tailgate, fam. So there are a ton of tailgaters. There's all the students in the area who are out having parties. It's like a big festival on game day. And so if we can get a billboard right there by the shoe, that's huge. And so there's a couple I'm eyeballing in that area that I don't know how much they are, and I'm sure the price increases during that time. But we should seriously consider trying to get that done because that's a lot. And I don't know if we could get the scoreboard advertisements. I don't know how willing they would be to participate in that as a university. I don't. That might scare some
They would
people
have
off.
to, for something like that, they'd probably have to be unwilling participants. You'd have to have
Yeah,
a friend that can do a thing that can make that ad
yeah.
happen,
Or
which would
like
be
you just
more
call
impactful,
and
honestly.
yeah. Or like you just are very careful about how you word it and how you represent it. And, like we could be sneaky about it probably, but I don't know how likely that is. But now that we have a connection through Lamar, the billboards I'm looking at are Lamar. So we could get that up, I think, for sure. So that's something I really don't want to still be doing this in the fall, though. It'd be cool if
No.
Julian, I mean, I don't want to be fighting for Julian. He needs to be free by then, hopefully. We'll still be fighting for press freedom and free speech, of course. I mean, that's unfortunate, but yes. But yeah, I would really like for Julian to be home by then, seriously. But if we are still in this position, we should definitely consider the one by the shoe for sure.
I think
So
that
that's
would be
my
awesome.
long and like really passionately excited billboard update. I hope you enjoyed that madness because I've been super giddy about it since it happened. It killed me that I didn't have an update last week, and then we didn't have a thing on Saturday, which by then I had like signed the contract and was just waiting for Bean to get me the finalized design and to make the prepayment. But I knew when they were going to go live, so I was really. And then we didn't have a show, so I have been waiting like an entire week to do this. So this is my joy for today. Thank you so much.
For sure. I think that that's such an awesome thing you got organized. That's so fucking badass.
Well, thanks to everybody that donated. Really, I mean, it's not like it's super hard work. You guys don't give me too much credit. And I'm happy to do it. Y'all that donated are really the real heroes because all I did was organize it and deal with making the payments and talking to Bean to get designs and stuff. Just kind of put it together. But people who donated, that's who really made this happen. And Bean, big shout out to Bean for the
Always
designs.
shout out to Bean. Bean was
Seriously.
on the Whistleblower panel.
The Whistleblower Fest, yeah.
Whistleblower Festival.
Bean is amazing. Can crank out designs for us at the drop of a hat. Happy to do it. Super receptive. Was like good with helping me because we had been told. Sorry, I'm rambling. But we had been told like in London ones, there's no like action really. There's nothing for people to do, and so we decided to add the AssangeDefense.org at the bottom so that people would have a website to visit. And that was something that was suggested to me that I'm fine with. And if you guys have something else, like Andrew, if you have like I don't really care what we have like kind of an action wise, but I do think that was a good critique, or not critique really, but suggestion, I guess, on how to improve the campaign because the ones in the UK don't have. So I think adding the website was good for sure. Yeah, I'm excited. So if you're in the Columbus area, those are the addresses. Drive by, snap some selfies, post them, tag me in them because it'll make me happy. I'm gonna go take some selfies hopefully tomorrow, but I have homeschool and all that shit, so we'll see. But yeah, they're up. They're up. Yay.
So do we want to start with another little piece of good news? I have another one.
Yeah, I like good news, and then we can
So-
depress me.
Let me pull this up. The European Federation on Journalism? It's some big thing over in Europe. The European Federation of Journalists. Let me drop this in the chat for everyone. They have an ongoing list of political prisoners. I'm not going to put it on the screen share, but I'll just throw it up for everyone to see. And they have officially added Julian Assange as a political prisoner in the United Kingdom.
Hey.
It's a shitty victory.
It is, but
Like,
hey.
Our whole movement's filled with shitty victories. Like, we're excited
Your
about a
move,
billboard.
Amnesty. Your move.
But
Hey, Amnesty. Everybody should tweet at Amnesty.
Yeah.
Please. Nicely. Politely.
otherwise they
Kindly.
get upset.
Yeah, we want them to help us. So it's okay to be a little like snarky, like I do. Call them out for the fact that they have named Alexei Navalny a political prisoner and not Julian Assange. Please do that, because the hypocrisy is immense. It's not okay, and we need to be calling that out. We need to be shaming them publicly, like Andrew Yang with Palestine. Let's make that happen across the board. That's what should happen. They should be publicly shamed for this shit, and Amnesty is not stepping up. And they need to.
Have they listed him as a prisoner of conscience yet? I'm not sure if that's happened yet. I know they did like a campaign for him, but I don't think they formally listed him as a political
That's
prisoner.
what the big hypocrisy is they have for Navalny, but they haven't for Assange, both. So yeah, definitely tweet at them. And also the guy from Reporters Without Borders still hasn't answered us, and I want to know why. If he did not speak to Anthony Blinken about Julian Assange, I want to know why.
We can
I would
probably
really
ask
like to
Rebecca
know.
Vincent that at the very least.
I don't want to make her the go-between
That's fair.
with my beef with this dude,
That's fair.
because I like her a lot. And it's not her fault that he's not answering this very reasonable and important question. If you were speaking with Anthony Blinken on World Press Freedom Day and you didn't speak to him about Julian Assange, I deserve to know why. I want to know why.
Absolutely.
So answer me, please.
It's like how I think on World Press Freedom Day last year, Bernie Sanders and Ocasio-Cortez sat down for an interview with The Intercept, where they talked about Reality Winner but didn't talk about Julian Assange. And even in Reality Winner's case, gave like colloquialisms such as "we'll have to check with the caucus." And
Yeah,
crap
I
like
don't
that.
really know what's, I haven't really been following it. That's one of Bernie Sanders' favorite things. I haven't really been following that. That's what he says with Reality Winner.
It's fucking.
Really?
These people are painful.
Scumbag. Yeah.
So
All right. Shall we depress me now?
yeah, I think that's all of our happy news. Do you want to talk about Craig Murray first, or do you want to talk about the Palestinian journalist being censored? Those are the two that I have.
Let's start with Craig Murray, because I think that's the most important, and I don't want to run out of time and that's terrible to say, but because they're both extremely important. But
Yeah.
Craig Murray, is something that we've been covering, so I would like to update people on that. So depressing.
It's gross. I have the slides up.
Okay, so whistleblower Craig Murray sentenced to 8 months in prison over his reporting on former Scottish First Minister's trial. And Mohammed Al-Mazi, friend of the show, great journalist, please support his work. Okay, former UK diplomat turned whistleblower Craig Murray was sentenced to 8 months in prison at the High Court in Edinburgh for contempt of court. I'm sure I pronounced that wrong, UK people. Please don't come for me. For contempt of court resulting from his coverage of the trial of former Scottish First Minister Alex Salmond. A 3-judge panel determined on March 25th, 2021, following a 2-hour trial in January, that information published by Murray in a number of his blog posts was likely to lead indirectly to people being able to identify witnesses in Salmon's sexual assault trial. This process, known as jigsaw identification, refers to the possibility that a person may piece together information from various sources to arrive at the identification of a protected witness. It is, quote, "It is believed to be the first instance in Scottish legal history where jigsaw identification has led to an individual being imprisoned," end quote. A statement released on behalf of Murray's family declared. So basically what happened was he reported on a trial, and because of the information contained in his reports, they were saying that you would potentially be able to then identify the witnesses that he was speaking about. So, which is really weird.
Right, and
thing to have.
Craig, we talked about it last Tuesday, even goes as far as to show how it can be your article in reference to a news story released 6 months ago with information from an 8-year-old book that doesn't
It
actually
literally,
have to
it's
do
called
anything.
jigsaw. Yeah, it's called jigsaw identification for a reason. It's like Craig's reporting was literally just a piece of the puzzle that if you took the time to go through and like piece all these things together, you would be able to identify a witness.
But no
That's
one actually
essentially
did it, is the other part
right.
of Craig's story. No one actually identified and harassed these people.
No. Craig Murray, I can't imagine Craig Murray ever harassing anybody ever. He apologized the other day for being mean, and I looked back at his tweets, and no.
The man apologizes for having to fundraise.
Yes. Yes. And he never asks for help for himself ever. He always focuses on other people unless he is desperate. And yeah, he's just a really, again, I've never met him, but he seems like a really stand-up dude. And this sucks what's happening to him. It really does. He has a 2-month-old baby, and he's about to go to prison for 8 months now. For nothing. For journalism.
Yeah, I'm going to jump back in here because this actually talks about that too.
Yeah.
8 months in prison. A significant fine is how this court normally deals with media contempt, even those that actually interfere with the course of justice. Rodney Dunlap, QC, Murray's lawyer, told the High Court on May 7th. To rule otherwise in this case would be harsh to the point of being disproportionate. In mitigation, Dunlap informed the court that Murray is 62 years old, the father of a newborn, and suffers from a pulmonary health condition, which will worsen if incarcerated. There was also no risk of repeating the crime, and Murray's intent was never to violate the anonymity order. Murray was critical of the prosecution of Salmon, which he described as a politically motivated stitch-up, a fact that appears to have irked the judges in his case. For this part, Murray contended the charges against him are politically motivated as a result of his support for Salmon. Salmon was acquitted by a jury of all 14 counts of sexual harassment and assault brought against him. However, the fact was considered irrelevant by the court when deciding the contempt of court case against Murray. Blocking Murray from testifying against UC Global. So this is something that we talked about a few weeks ago. Craig Murray is set to testify in Spain, or was set to testify in Spain against UC Global in a few weeks, in the coming weeks. I think it was before the end of May or beginning of June. And he will no longer be able to do that because for the next 8 months he will be in prison. Although the court originally gave Murray 48 hours to surrender himself to authorities, they extended that to 3 weeks after Dunlap requested more time to appeal to the Supreme Court, so an appeal to the Supreme Court can be lodged. The decision means that Murray will not be able to attend in person as a witness in the ongoing Spanish criminal case where David Morales, the latter of which is being prosecuted for his role in the alleged surveillance of Julian Assange, his lawyers, and their privileged communications. Which I think that's the biggest detriment to this whole thing. Like,
Yes.
there's another whole piece about that we'll get into about what this is doing to Scottish law and how it's infringing upon their sovereignty, even as a member of the UK. But the fact that literally these charges have been lingering almost the entire time that Julian Assange has been on trial. And now, right as he's set to testify against the CIA, the hopefully dead Sheldon Adelson, David Morales, and UC Global, he's getting stitched up and thrown in jail for 8 months.
Again, this is another one of those things we were talking about earlier, how obvious it is. Could it be more obvious? They held on to these charges the entire time Julian was in prison. And now that this UC Global thing is just about to go to court, weeks away, suddenly they decide to go through with these charges, and they're going to put Craig Murray in prison right before, literally, like, I think the appeal, I think it's like the day before the UC Global case is supposed to, like, Craig Murray's supposed to go testify. It's insane. And it's like, and they're trying to say you can't just hang on and let him test, or he can testify by video link. Why can't he do that? The whole damn case for Julian was via video link. So why can't he testify? If you want him to testify from prison, he should be able to do that. That he's been called as a witness. But no, it's so orchestrated and it's very obvious. I mean, this whole case against Craig Murray really doesn't have anything to do with what they're charging him for. I mean, that's just speculation on my part, but I don't think I'm wrong. This is about his coverage of the Julian Assange case and his relationship with Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. And it's also about the fact that he was a whistleblower. He blew the whistle on them. And so they already don't like him. And then he's also a threat now.
He's such a badass motherfucker that on Saturday he attended the Whistleblower Fest that Deepa put on. Gave a wonderful speech. I'm sure we'll clip out parts of it to play, right? And then on Monday goes to court. Tuesday goes to court. Like, what's up? Like, what
and he doing? So he thought he was going to court on Friday, and he had signed up to be a speaker, not knowing if he would even be able. So what he did was he filmed something. He did a 30-minute video for Deepa to show at the event, just in case he was going to be in prison. And then when it turned out he wasn't going to be in prison, he showed up in person to speak at her event, and then went to court on Tuesday.
Fucking balls of steel.
Yeah.
So much respect for Craig Murray.
No, he's just in it. He's in it. He is a legit fighter. He's not going to give up. You're not going to deter him. You're not going to scare him. If he can be there, he'll fucking be there. If he can't be there, he'll find a way to be there, in some way. And I love people like that. He's not, and dude's about, he is going to go testify against the CIA. That alone is pretty ballsy. That's somebody who I want on my team. For sure.
It's beautiful. But to jump back into this,
I love Craig Murray.
I hate that there's not a separate bar that I can control the screen share from, so that way you can see it too.
Yeah.
But I do it quick enough no one even notices. Hugh Kerr is a former vice chair of the National Union of Journalists, an organization that Craig Murray was having a hell of a time getting re-involved with after these charges appeared. He said this decision represents a real threat to civil liberties. A key point, of course, the women who are mentioned to be threatened by Jigsaw identification all remain anonymous. Alex Salmon's life was destroyed. Craig Murray's life is about to be destroyed too. I know that Craig shall appeal not only to the Supreme Court, but also to the European Court of Human Rights. He will do so with the support of many people in Scotland and many people around the world. This is two different statements. One of them's from John Pilger, the other one's from Noam Chomsky. John Pilger said, in these dark times, Craig Murray is a truth-telling beacon. He is owed a debt of gratitude, not the travesty of a prison sentence, which, like the persecution of Julian Assange, is a universal warning. Noam Chomsky said, Craig Murray has compelled a remarkable record of courage and integrity in exposing crimes of the state and working to bring them all to an end. Professor Noam Chomsky stated, contending, Murray fully merits our deep respect and full support for his achievements. And then this is just a perspective of someone from Scotland, a veteran journalist named Mark Hurst. Scottish journalism is actively being attacked. We have a very serious problem in Scotland at present. In Hurst's view, the Crown Office is an institutionally corrupt prosecuting authority which is abusing their power and acting in an inevitably, I don't even know if that's the right word, biased and political manner. Hurst, a long-standing friend of Murray, said he knows through his own discussions with the senior lawyers and serving police officers that there is concern that the Crown Offices are being an entire legal system, are concerns that the Crown Office are bringing an entire legal system in Scotland into utter disrepute. Major reform is needed, or we will see other journalists and political activists falling victim to malicious proceedings, Hurst concluded.
Yeah. Fam, it's bad.
Welcome to 2021, y'all. Not even welcome, it's May. We've been here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just what we've been trying to tell people that we should be fighting against for years. And it sucks that we keep, and listen, I don't like being right about this stuff, and I'm not right about everything. But we've been pretty bang on about where this is headed. And this is just another piece of that. And it's just getting worse. Every day it just gets worse. And I don't even know what to say anymore. Honestly, I just feel like a complete fucking failure because I can't figure out how to get people to realize how bad this is. And it's here we are. We're
People
Craig
just-
Murray.
I just wholly believe people at this point just don't want to see it or aren't willing
Yeah.
to do anything even if they know, which is
Right.
the disheartening part, because
I think that honestly, those people disturb me much more. I understand ignorance. I genuinely understand ignorance because you can't know what you don't know. And but the people who know or should know better, that the people who, and especially people who claim to be for these things, for freedoms and being, like a Bernie Sanders, like progressives. This is supposed to be an issue that matters to everybody. But I don't understand why people who claim to be of the left don't understand. It's not like we don't have historical reference for where this is headed. This is always used against the left. The establishment doesn't give a shit about the right. The right is used. They use the right to get the left okay with what they're about to do to us. You know what I'm saying?
So one of
Go
the
ahead.
things I was thinking about when we were chit-chatting with the KRTD team was they had mentioned that, like, the original idea of Justice Democrats was to be the Tea Party 2.0, or like the Tea Party of the left. And the concept of the Tea Party pulling the Republican Party to the right is exactly what the Justice Democrats did. They facilitated a pulling to the right of the Democratic
Party. That's true. That's fair. Yeah, that's fair. But I don't think the Justice Democrats were ever intended to be a leftist movement in any way. And I wish people would stop pretending like that's the case. Cenk Uygur was involved, you guys. That's not what it was about. That's not what it was about ever. I'm sorry, but that's just not what it was about. So yeah, I think that you're right. They were absolutely effective in that way for sure. And that's exactly what they've done. And people like to talk about how, Bernie Sanders has really moved the leftist movement. No, he hasn't. He has stifled the leftist movement and moved it to the right. He's convinced people who are not at all leftists that they're left. I call them hipster liberals, and I used to call them liberals who want healthcare, but then they didn't even want to fight for healthcare. So I'm like, oh, well, I can't call them that anymore. You know what I mean? Like, these are people who don't even want progressives to fight for Medicare for all in any way. They please don't stand up to Nancy Pelosi. What? That was the whole purpose. Do you guys not? I'm curious. Somebody explain. Do you guys not remember? And I'm not talking to our audience because our audience is cool. But the people who think AOC is, do you guys not remember that the point of them was to fight the Democratic establishment? It wasn't to fight Republicans, because now all she does is talk about how evil Republicans are, and she never holds Nancy Pelosi accountable or Joe Biden. She said Joe Biden was what'd she say? Exceeding expectations. I'm sorry. She did what? And you're still trying to tell me no, come on. That's not, she was supposed to go fight those people. You guys just came off of getting your ass handed to you. I did too. As a Bernie Sanders supporter, you got robbed. You got completely fucked over in public. And that's what the Justice Democrats was born from. We're going to fight back. This is our fight back. We're going to send these people to Congress to fight or to run. We're going to send these people to run for Congress against these people. And we're going to do it the right way. And we're going to fight. And instead, some of them got elected and then completely capitulated 100%. And they never hold their own party accountable anymore. And all they do is talk about Republicans. I'm just curious. How did that happen?
Because people let it happen. The vanguards and the actual truth tellers in media got caught up in support for people like that because they built a cult of personality audience based on those people. And that was literally arguments that people made to me behind the scenes as to why they don't cover certain issues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's really upsetting though. Like I got, I guess I didn't get fooled by Bernie Sanders. I still knew who he was, but I did support him in 2016. And when he fucked me over, I was done. And it's weird when he fucked you over and you're still going to follow him around and give a shit about what he says and thinks? No. And it's not just the one time. And that's what I'm saying. Like, people tried to, when AOC gave that really terrible response on Israel, which is very important now, when she gave that really terrible response on Israel, people were like, oh, it's just one bad answer. It's not. It's lots of really bad things that she's done. It's a cumulative, it's a collection of terrible votes, terrible statements, ways she's walked back positions, things she has completely turned her back on, the people she's working with, the fact that, you know what I'm saying? It's not just one thing. It's a pattern of behavior. You have to stop, isolating each event so that you can feel okay about your, pet politician. It's not healthy. Walk away. It's okay I got screwed over by Obama. I voted for Obama in 2008. I feel terrible about that shit, man. I kind of bought into it. I was cautiously optimistic. I donated to AOC when she ran. Real talk. I donated to AOC. I got had too. I'm just okay enough to admit it and to move on and to accept it. We need people to do that, please. Please. Pretty please. Oh. All right, we need to talk about Palestine, but let's just do it quickly. We have a few minutes. It's really just, I need you guys to pay attention to this because it's another thing that's affecting press freedom right now on social media. Big surprise. They're shutting down Palestinian journalists and Palestinian accounts from sharing information about what's happening right now in Gaza and in other parts of Palestine. So, yeah, you want to jump into that, Andrew? Yeah, fuck Vice. I get it.
I've been muted this whole time.
Are you kidding me?
No. I'm so sorry, guys. I have an extra mute button now, and it was turned off.
That's what happens when I don't pay attention to the chat. Beth tried to tell us.
Right. No, I saw that, and that's part of what pulled me back in. So on Tuesday, Twitter temporarily restricted the account of a Palestinian American writer who was on the ground in the West Bank reporting on protests against the expulsion of Palestinians from their homes in East Jerusalem. We took enforcement action on the account you referenced in error. That has since been reversed. A Twitter spokesperson told Motherboard in an email. During the temporary restriction, the bio and several of the recent tweets of the journalist had a message that read, "The account is temporarily unavailable because it violates Twitter's media policy." The journalist told Motherboard that Twitter direct messaged that Twitter in a direct message that a tweet wow, I can't read this sentence now. Told Motherboard in a Twitter direct message that Twitter asked her to delete some of her tweets. To be frank, I'm not sure which tweets. I was at a demonstration being chased by Israeli military jeeps along with hundreds of Palestinians near Ramallah. She told Motherboard. I think if it's not someone with visibility on social media, that this would not have garnered the attention that it did. The issue isn't the suspension of my account, but rather the consideration that Palestinian accounts have been censored generally, but especially these past few weeks as we try to document Israeli aggression on the ground. I feel like I'm in a war zone in Bedal. Bagari tweeted right before her account was restricted. Israel keeps just went full force with hundreds of tear gas canister shots. Twitter reportedly refused to clarify to Motherboard what specific part of the company's terms of service Twitter initially believed that she had breached. The top section of Twitter's sensitivity media policy reads, "You may not post media that is excessively gory or share violent or adult content within live videos or a profile header or banner images, media explicitly or media depicting sexual violence and or assault is not permitted." None of Bagari's recent tweets appeared to share gratuitous violence or otherwise violate Twitter's policy. It keeps going for a little bit, but I will throw the article.
No, it's just fucking ridiculous. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. That's reality. We don't need to shield grown-ass adults from reality. And you know what? Maybe we should talk to the people committing those acts of violence and make them stop doing them so that we don't have to talk about them and so that we don't have to report on them. But people deserve to know that they're happening. And people deserve to have the ability to access that information and see what their governments are doing in their name. Because right now there's a genocide being committed on the Palestinian people that's being funded and trained and armed by Western governments. And Western people need to know what's happening because they need to start standing up and fighting back against these pieces of shit. Period. End of story. You want to call me anti-Semitic? Fine, come for me. I don't give a shit. It's not about that. This is a genocide, and you need to stand up and fight back against it. This has nothing to do with religion in any way, shape, or form. This is about power. This is about resources, and they are using religion as an emotional, cudgel to ethnically cleanse an entire people. It's not okay. And I deserve to know what's happening. Palestinian people deserve to be able to talk about it and to share their truth and to show what's happening to them. Sorry, I get really pissed off about this.
Well, if you listen to the U.S. government's arguments in court, if you share images, videos, and news articles about torture, people get upset, so you're not allowed to talk about torture.
Right. We need a trigger. It's a trigger warning. We need a trigger. Fuck your trigger warning. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be all social justice warrior, but this is reality. And we don't get to pussyfoot around about this. We don't get to pretend it doesn't exist and look away. I think every single person who voted for Joe Biden should have to watch those videos over and over and over again, because this is on you. You have ownership in this. Don't turn away from it. You need to look at that shit. That's what you voted for. You voted for a proud Zionist. This is what you voted for. Look at it, take it in, and learn something from it. Please. We need to end this, and continuing to vote for these same assholes over and over and over again. This is who you're hurting. Palestinian people, Syrian people, the people of Iran, the people of Venezuela, the people of Cuba, the people of Brazil, people of, you know what I'm saying? Colombia. This is who you're hurting. And if you're, let's fight for somebody I don't know, if that ends at American borders, you're not on my team. And you need to evaluate your priorities, because this isn't just about what's happening within our borders. Our country is destroying things the globe over, and it needs to stop. Sorry. I told you I was ranty today. I'm really fired up. This Palestinian stuff, though, is really, it's funny because Jesse and I had literally just started a series on Facts on the Ground a couple weeks ago, talking about the history of Palestine and Israel. And we did a whole episode on the history of Zionism. And I've been doing all this research. So when all of this really started kicking back up again this week, I have been fully invested in Israel-Palestine research obviously it's something I've cared about for a long time, but I've really been digging into research lately. So it's hitting different, you know what I mean? And I'm really, as you can see, I'm really worked up about it. And, seeing the stuff that's been happening, and the children are being murdered, and people are brushing it off. It's no big thing. These Zionist scumbags.
Room for Biden heights. They have Trump heights on the west side. They have to put Biden heights on the east side.
Surely, that's definitely more important than Palestinian sovereignty and human rights. It's disgusting. I can't anymore, you guys. It needs to end. This is not, stop letting them use the anti-Semitic smear as a weapon against you. You need to be bold enough to say, I don't give a shit. Come for me. I don't care. I'm saying it right now. Come for me. You want to call me anti-Semitic? Come for me. Because it's not about that. It is really not about that. And I don't care. You're not going to scare me off with that. And we need more people to do that, please, especially people in positions of power. Stop being afraid of it. We have to fight back against this. And this is, again, Israel I don't know if there's anybody better at PR than Israel. And this is what they do. And so that smear campaign, they use it because it works. And we have to fight back against it. We cannot let it be something that we allow anymore. And if you run scared from it, then they win. That works. And it's going to continue to be effective. And so I don't care. I'm not anti-Semitic. Criticizing a genocide does not make me anti-Semitic. Quite the opposite, y'all. Quite the opposite. So yeah, we have to stop letting them use that as a weapon against us because it's killing people, literally. And I'm not down with that. I'm not. So please come for me. I dare you. Please. Let's have a conversation, homies. Let's do that because I don't give a shit. I really don't. I stand with Palestine. Always, forever stand with the oppressed, not the oppressor. Okay, I'm done now. Sorry.
No,
sorry. I could go on. I'm really fired up about this right now. It makes me unbelievably upset.
But I think we're good for the night.
We are. I'm sorry, everybody.
I don't mean
to break it down like that.
Fucking like rip pump at 11 o'clock at night, like adrenaline rush just before bed. Those are all.
I really just did get and I was exhausted before this show. Thank you very much.
But
so
for
now
real,
I'm fired
where
up.
are the fucking anti-war groups? Like,
oh God. Again, where are the progressives? There's some mealy-mouthed tweets on Twitter talking about clashes and.
So an interesting thing, just to put it all kind of in perspective and context. That interview that AOC did where she like backtracked on Palestine for like 45 minutes and like seemed...
I'm not an expert on that.
Right, where a dude literally got censored and the fucking Capitol Police rolled up to his house like, hey, did you say something bad about AOC? Right? So that literally happened. A bunch of white cops showed up because AOC was scared of someone exposing her anti-Palestinian
some rando Twitter
rant. Right? Yeah. So what that interview was and why it was censored, in my opinion, is because it essentially put her piece on the playing field and her new ideological position now that she has rich and powerful friends for when something like this happens. Not that AOC gave them the okay to fuck up Palestinians. They've been doing that forever. But it showed before an event like this took place what side she would or wouldn't be on, and if she would or wouldn't just stay quiet about it and shut up and put some angry tweets out about Ted Cruz or some shit.
Yeah. She's no friend to Palestinians. I need people to stop pretending like that's a thing. She's not. She is not. I'm sorry. You don't get to be wishy-washy on this issue and still get my respect. It's no, this is a non-negotiable for me. Imperialism is a non-negotiable. I'm not willing to budge. It's not something I'm willing to talk about. No discussion needed. Imperialism ends. That's my goal, period. End of story. There is no other answer. So I'm not down for people who, pretend to be friends of Palestinians and then want to go talk to Israel about using their the technology for my whitewash, watered down corporate giveaway Green New Deal bullshit. Nope. You don't get to do that.
They're also one of the first major Western powers that implemented vaccine passports across the board, literally call them freedom bracelets. It's how you get your world back. It's how you go back.
But not Palestinians. Not Palestinians. They don't even have access to the vaccine, so they can't even, there's not even a thing for that.
It's literally building a two-tiered society based on...
They already have that, but then it's a two-tiered society within the Israeli population.
Like in a technocratic fashion. Because you have to beep to
so really it's now a three-tier.
Yeah,
now it's a three-tier. It's vaccinated Israelis, unvaccinated Israelis, and then Palestinians are like way down here. They don't get anything. They don't get water, they don't get housing. In fact, their houses get stolen or torn down, or they're made to tear their own houses down or whatever. So no, there's no, you don't at this point, there is zero excuse for support for Israel. None. There's nothing you can say to me to justify that. I'm sorry. End of story. It's over. And I'm hoping that it seems to me like that's catching on. Like people are starting to recognize how dangerous Israel is and how bad this is. Hopefully I'm starting to see it. Like you still have the douche canoes like Ted Cruz and Meghan McCain, praising Zionism. But no, I think that people are, especially among young, legitimate leftists, it's a non-negotiable at this point. So that gives me some hope. But yeah, you guys support Palestinian journalists, please. Share their work, follow them, all that good stuff, because they're getting hit right now. And keep an eye on that because their voices are going to be silenced. That's why we need to boost them, because they're going to get hit with algorithms. They're going to have their pages taken down. They're going to be shadow banned. So we have to do everything that we can to boost those stories and to get as many eyes on that as possible. So if you can do that while you're on social media and help out, that really does help. While we still have the ability to use that as a tool, we need to try to do that as much as possible. Okay, sorry. I've been rambling again.
You're good. My name's Andrew Smith. You can find me on Twitter.
Siri just answered me.
Oh, what'd she say?
I said, I'm sorry, I've been rambling. Seriously. And she must have heard me. And she goes, it's no problem. It scared me. That scared me.
Right. Like the CIA is okay that you're rambling too. They're like, no, we're expanding our data
It's fine.
profile.
We're taking notes. We're writing everything down, girl. Go on.
Oh man.
Can you slow down a little though? Okay, sorry.
Oh man, that's fun. My name's Andrew Smith. You can find me on Twitter at Andrew Sigmund. You can find us at action_4 Assange. Links down in the description are support Craig Murray. The KRTD Media Summit on the 22nd, which I think is like next weekend or the weekend after. But also the Billboards fundraiser, which 500 more bucks and we can get 2 more billboards. Fucking awesome.
Yeah, if you guys can even just get like a couple $100 in there, I can justify the rest. Come on, let's do it.
So
let's do it.
Big thank you to the KRTD media team for showing up. We actually did have an issue with the streamer pushing out to their channel, so I'm probably going to try to send them a copy of this video to be able to put up. But that's a totally different thing. Yeah, thank you all. Thank you so much.
And I'm Misty Winston. You can find me on Twitter at Sarcasm Stardust. I have another show called Facts on the Ground with my friend Jesse Zerowell. Like I said, we just started an Israel-Palestine series. I think we've done 3. Oh, I don't remember. My brain's a little fried. We're also doing a series on Ukraine, and we got some stuff going on. So go check that out. We're on Rockfin as well. Don't forget the Billboard fundraiser. I know I'm forgetting other stuff. Oh, tomorrow at 7 p.m. Eastern, Bitch with Comrade Misty. I'm going to have a guest on tomorrow that's going to piss people off, and it always makes me happy for that. So come join us in the chat to get some shit off your chest. It's always a good time. And I think that's it. So yeah, we'll see you on Saturday, I guess. Bye, guys. Thank you.